friends, welcome back. My name is Tamitha, if this is the first time we're going to spend some time together. Today we're making semolina pasta. Now, we've already done a pasta series at one point where we did egg pasta, and I showed it both by hand and using a food processor. That is an excellent recipe, and it's an excellent series of methods. But that is not pasta that you would use to dry. You can freeze it, and that works out great. However, when you want to make pasta that you're going to make a big batch of and you're going to dry it and have it pantry stable, well, that's when semolina comes in. When you're going to the market and you find your favorite pasta that's on the shelf, 99% of the time, that is semolina pasta that you're looking at. And it allows you to store it for a long time. When you cook it, you get that beautiful al dente, assuming you haven't overcooked it. And it's such an important skill to have because as we're building out our larders, we want to be able to have control over the ingredients that we're using. And something very particular, you'll notice there's a big difference in price with some brands of pasta where some are like $5, where others are still like $1. Why, if it's all semolina? The difference is in the method. And what a lot of the good brands are using are bronze dyes. And that makes a very big difference in how your end product comes out. Why? Why? Who cares? Well, I'll tell you why. Using a bronze dye has when the dough is extruded, which is what this is a pasta dough extruder, and I'm making a mess, but that's fine. That's just the handle. Bronze dyes, and I'll show you because that's all I have. I don't get involved. These are real brass. They're also called bronze. They're a little heavy. They are a little more, well, no, they are more expensive, period, full stop. However, they last forever. These are things that you will hand down to your children, but you get a much better product. When you're using a plastic dye, which is what very commonly the pasta extruding machines that attach to our mixers, and there's a very big countertop machine that I'm not going to mention because I've not personally tested it, but you may know what that is, and it's an extruder, and it comes again with plastic dyes. It does have, there's like a third party that got involved and made an adapter and sells bronze dyes for that machine. And I may actually invest in that so I can test it. This is the one that I have, and it's done by hand. It's a hand crank. And the reason is bronze dyes leave a lot of texture on the outside of that pasta noodle. That matters because it helps the sauce, whatever you're tossing your pasta in, your condimento, it helps it stick. So when you're using something smooth that's plastic, it just slips right out and it doesn't add any texture at all. It's virtually smooth. And the difference is night and day. It adds a much more beautiful texture into your teeth, and it adds a beautiful texture in your sauce. Your sauce will literally cling. And that, it makes all the difference. It's worth it. That's why if you buy that pasta from, for example, the one I tend to buy if I'm buying is DiCecco. If you buy DiCecco and you compare it to the one that's for $1, maybe even the store brand, whatever it may be, try it yourself. See if I'm making that up. I'm not. The difference is significant. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I hope you'll give it a try. I will link this machine that I have. There are others that are similar to it. You don't have to use this one. What matters is the dye. And that's the big difference, is the bronze dye. So we're going to make spaghetti, I think. I'm going to do a long pasta. I'm not even sure which one, because we're making pancetta. And we've been working on our pancetta now for about a month, and it's drying and it's going beautifully, thank goodness. I've been doing that for about 10 years, and it comes out beautifully every time. So if you're working on that project with me, if you decide to go ahead and make the pasta that goes with it, we can literally make homemade pasta carbonara from your own kitchen with the real good pasta, the real pancetta made at home by you. Let's do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go over the tools and ingredients and all the stuff that you see in front of me. I said semolina flour. Now, I generally buy mine in bulk, and so that's not what I have in front of me. I actually wanted to test a smaller bag. I wanted to test one that is more easily found. This is from Whole Foods, and this is their Molino Grassi is the brand, and that is what I'm using today because I wanted to make sure that it works the same as what I'm accustomed to. And I also even grind my own. But there are differences. Sometimes I grind, sometimes I buy, and I buy in bulk if I'm going to be making a massive amount and I want to just dry lots and just fill up my larder. But this brand I couldn't tell the difference when I was looking at it or feeling it from the stuff that I buy bulk. I can link all of my sources. Anything that you see in front of you, I will link. So don't worry about that. These are pasta drying racks. Now, they stack, which is very helpful when, I have a lot of equipment, you may have noticed, and my husband is going to kill me if I keep it up, but this is not new. But I've discovered that if I get things that stack, it annoys him less because, look, I made an effort to take up less space. Anyhow, the other one that I had did not stack, and it drove him up a wall because it kind of went out sideways, and it had the little, it looked like a tree, and all the little limbs stick off of it, and that's where you hang your pasta, but it was a pain in the neck to store. Because it says it went flat, but it didn't quite go flat. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is really, really nice. And why does this matter? Why? Because this drying on a rack is not enough if you're going to save it long term. I've done it, and it just didn't do the job. Actually, what ended up happening was my pasta cracked. Now, it seemed to be doing well for a while, and then maybe, 4 days later, I had made penne, and every one of the penne noodles cracked. I was so upset. This is way back when I first started doing this. It was such a huge job, and that's why the recipe I give you 2 amounts. The first is for 1 pound, and that's just for you to practice. I don't want to give you just the big one and you make a huge mess and waste like I did. I wasted so much, and not just in the ingredients, but the time. And because it does take a little bit of practice. I'm not going to lie to you and say, well, this is just, bang this right out. That would be a lie. But it's not hard, but it is a technique that you may have to tinker with a little bit at your house because it's 2 steps in the drying. The first step, we're going to lay all of our spaghetti or linguine, whatever it is I pick. I haven't even picked it out of the bag yet. Whatever we pick, we're going to lay it out on our trays and leave it there for a couple of hours. And then we're going to move it to the dehydrator at the very lowest temperature because we are not trying to cook it. We are trying to literally remove all the liquid, every bit that is possible to remove. And so that's why I found that I had much better results when I moved from just the tray and I added the dehydrating step. And the dehydrator, I let that go for hours until it is absolutely snap. And that's what you want. And then it's stored in glass jars. And in the glass jar, I even throw in those little oxygen absorbers. Now, something about that, the oxygen absorber, it's important. That helps because there's humidity in our homes and so forth. We want to make sure, because remember, this is homemade. It doesn't have any of the extra help that those industrial machines get in dehydrating. Those get it to bone dry. We come as close as humanly possible in a home setting. So to make sure I have every benefit, I add the oxygen absorbers into the jar and then of course seal the jar. If you have even the littlest bit of moisture left in your noodles, in your spaghetti, whatever it is, it will fail. So it is very important to have patience. Make sure it is bone dry. The oxygen absorber will not take you the rest of the way to dry. It will just help you maintain dry. I hope that made sense. In my head, that made sense. Out of my mouth, it could have been crap. Oh, all right, whatever. Moving on. So that is our pasta dryer. Now, this is from Whole Foods. As always, the link to now this is a little bit long because I gave you a lot of information for troubleshooting and because I really want you to be as successful as possible. So anything I could think of is in here. Now, this little contraption is from Italy. That's where I got it. However, I didn't go to Italy, I ordered it. It comes apart pretty easily. This is an auger. It just slips right in. You take now this is much too big, so I'm going to leave that off. And then you just tie it on, and you can attach all the different ones. When you buy this, it comes with, I think, 5 dies. And then there's a little extra that you can buy It's expensive. I think it's like $180 for the extra, and you get an extra four dies, or it might be the reverse. It might be you get 5 and it comes with 4, something like that. It's been a while. So we have to add that. This is the handle, just a rubber spatula, and the water, 600 grams, because I am making the larger batch, and this is weighed. I weigh everything and it's weighed in grams. So I forgot, this is 1,500 grams of semolina. Okay, so that's everything that we've got. It's not a lot, but it's important. And so let's pick out, I know which one I want if I can just get on with it. Might be you. I would not start with a short, fat shape. I would not start with penne or anything like that. Please, please, please. Yeah, I'll do that one. Please, I'm begging you, start with linguine, spaghetti, something like that. It makes a huge difference. And at home, the drying process, it makes a huge difference when you're working with just long noodles. I want to be able to say to you, absolutely, just make those big fat shapes. We love it. The risk of not having it dry exactly right is very high. Okay, so when it's that way, I prefer to do a smaller batch. That way I know I'm able to test it and control it. But when I'm making a lot in advance, I do spaghetti, linguine, stuff like that. Okay, so I am having, we all know what I'm having. I'm going to get myself set up and we'll be right back. Okay, so quite literally, the only ingredients in this bowl is the semolina flour. So you can get a closer look. Let's get you in there. This is the packaging. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of that if it's helpful. Now, this does not come together like egg pasta dough. Egg pasta dough literally forms a dough. This does not. And if it does, you've added too much water. This is going to be like crumbles. And you actually are going to put it through the machine as crumbles. And it becomes the solidified dough through this process, through the extrusion process. So how do you know when this is ready? It's going to look like wet crumbs. Of course, it's almost going to look like the crumbs that you put on top of a coffee cake. Okay? But then when you pick it up and you give it a squeeze, it holds together. That's when you know you're ready. Okay, so we've got our flour measured out by weight, and we've got warm water, not hot water. I am not adding it all at once because it does take a little bit for this to drink up the water that is added. So just go slowly, use a rubber spatula, and make sure you're using a rubber spatula that is firm. This is not the time for one of those super floppy ones. It'll drive you up a wall and down the other side. So you see these coarse bits? Your whole batch is going to look like that. It is important that you start with that small batch. If that batch is too small for your family, you can double that small batch, but I would not go, this is 4 pounds. This is going to make 4 pounds of pasta. But when you're just starting out, I would hate to see you waste while you're learning. And this does have just a little bit of a learning curve. I don't want to oversell it and make you think it's a big deal, because it isn't. I want you to feel comfortable to try it. But I also want to set your expectations. I have been working out in the garden so much, and my back is miserable because I was out in the orchard. And it doesn't seem to matter how much mulch we put down out there. The weeds just show up and make a jerk of themselves. And of course, because I have some sort of brain damage. I can't tolerate the weeds. And so I, with my back being what it is, I still climb around down there and pull them one by one. I have to really just learn to live with it. I don't know what it is with me. When I ask my kids, well, can you please go ahead and pull the weeds? They pull it, but then I get upset because they break them instead of getting them by the root. Okay, so once we've got all of our water added, you see I switch to my hands. And I'm just tossing this around because it's quite sticky. And there's still some flour here that is not hydrated. And that's okay, because this is going to rest, much like we do when we're making bread and we do an autolyse step. This is kind of similar. See how sticky that is? So that's going to drink much more, absorb much more. So I'm just tossing this so the water that I added is completely mixed through the entire batch. Don't add any more water, even if it looks just like this. This is what it's supposed to look like. Please don't add more water. What we're going to do is let time hydrate this for us. So I'm just making sure that I'm breaking up any big clumps because I actually want to expose any of that stickiness, because that's where obviously there's more water and it's going to absorb our semolina flour. Okay, so we're going to stop right there and we're going to cover this. Now this bowl I like because it has a lid. It's got flour all over it. That's okay. It's got a lid, and I like that because it saves me the trouble of wrapping in plastic. I just got this. I was kind of charmed by the matching lid that actually seals shut. It's really nice for bread dough, I have to say. I mean, it's not as cute as my other bowls, but I do enjoy this lid. I'll link it if you care. Okay, so we're going to let this rest for 30 minutes, and we'll be right back. So it's been 30 minutes. Nice clean hands. This is exactly what we want this to look like. And when we pick it up, this is what we get. Now, I'm not kneading as much as I'm feeling to make sure that the moisture is evenly distributed. Any flour that's just loose flour that stays at the bottom of the bowl, by the time I get to the bottom of the bowl, can stay there. But this is the right amount of moisture. It is, if you see, it just clumps together like that. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So now we'll get rid of this. And we're going to lay out the racks, because obviously you can't load them when they are stacked. Okay. Okay. There we go. Now you see the texture. That's what we're looking for. Now I lay them down nice and neat, because that's just my nature. I don't know that you have to be as nutty about this as I tend to be. Now remember, this is homemade. This isn't in a factory machine that's going to make sure these are always dead straight. That's not going to happen. Dead straight, you're not going to get. As they dry, you will more than likely see a bit of a curl. And then you want to make them so they're just pretty much the same length. And you'll get a feel for that. And you quite literally keep doing this until all your trays are full. I separate them. I don't want them to dry stuck to each other. Every time I do this, I say to myself, there's got to be a better way. But there wasn't in a home setting. All the Italian machines that do this with the bronze dies were hand crank. Until I had read about that machine. You know what? I'll just tell you. It's the Philips machine, the Philips pasta extruder. But it comes with plastic, or maybe they call them nylon, dies. Well, that's trash. And I don't want that. But someone has also obviously felt the same way about it. In case you're wondering why I keep doing this, I keep rolling until I hit that, and that just allows me to see where I am, so they're all the same length. In case you're wondering how do I know to stop? I just pick a spot. Yep, I pick the spot, and that's it. But that Philips machine, a third party came up with an adapter and bronze dies that fit that. And I think, now I'm not sure what that will cost. In fact, I will look it up because I really would like to know. And I don't want it to be, you know, when you do what I do, a lot of companies give you things. I will not deal with an item. If I don't love it, you'll never hear me bring it up. So if you see me saying, you know, a company sent this to me and you know, this is something that I'm interested in, it's because I truly love it. I won't. I don't like that. Anyhow, so I don't want to be given that machine or go and ask for it. I want to pay for it myself so I can test it without having obligations to anyone. I want to be able to say it worked the way I need it to or it didn't. Plus, I don't even know if that would work. That machine, the part that makes that machine something that I would be interested in is not made by Philips. I'm thinking out loud here. I should probably just shush. And you just keep going. I will admit, this is a little bit of a, you know, it's an effort, but listen, I'll have good arms and good pasta. So here we are. I mean, this is some work. This is one of my other dryers. This is not the tree. Now this one comes apart, so it does lay flat. But this one is not as, it's not as sturdy, and I've had this one not hold. So I'm actually not going to link it because I don't want you to have that problem. I know how to deal with it, but as I told you, I won't, if I don't love it, I'm not linking it. This I like very much, these that stack, and they're very solid. But this is what this is. So now, hang on. So now from this point, we're done. Okay, so now this is going to dry. Now here's the other issue. You see here, this obviously is not going to lay flat. It's going to dry like this, you know, with that curl. Is that the end of the world? No. Does it make a huge difference in the way it cooks? No. However, I have had the experience where sometimes it will crack, and it will crack right here. Okay, so as I said, it's not my favorite. I am not linking it for that reason. However, I like this, but I want you to see the texture. Let's get in close here. Do you see that? Those little ridges? That is what you get with bronze dies. That texture does not disappear. That texture makes it through the entire process, all the way to cooking, and your sauce sticks to that, and you end up with the most beautiful result. Is it a little bit more work? Yes. Is it a little bit more expensive because the dyes are expensive? Yes. However, these are something that you invest in one time and you never have to do it again. The plastic ones, I can't say how long they last. I don't use them. Now this is a tray that we started earlier. I'm sorry, I'm walking around, so please excuse me. I know there's a little bit of jiggling. I apologize. I don't mean to make anybody sick. But these have started to dry. In fact, that, you know, so you see that curve? Remember I told you it's not going to stay perfectly straight. You see that curve? That happens as it dries. You know, so dead straight, nope, not going to get that. This isn't DeCecco or one of the major factories. That's how this is going to be. I'm going to let these sit. Any ones that are stuck together like this, I'm going to separate, because we don't want them to stay stuck like that. So I'm going to go through and separate them and let them sit for at least an hour now, because they've already been sitting for an hour, and then we'll start to transfer them to the trays for the dehydrator. Okay, so here we are. There's a fly. We'd had these fly traps that were working reasonably well, but apparently they're done because the flies are back, and I'm just, ugh! Anyway, let's turn this around for you. So here we are after that process. Now remember, this is semolina flour. This is going to dry for at least another hour, maybe even 2. And then I'm going to transfer them very gently onto the trays of my dehydrator. Now I have a fairly large dehydrator. I have, I guess, what's the bigger version of the Excalibur. It's got a lot of trays in it. This will not work in one of those dehydrators that's round, that's got the column in the middle. This, for obvious reasons, this won't work. And plus, I don't find them to be particularly effective. At some point, we'll be doing a whole dehydrator series because I love that. I love dehydrating food. But those are, I'm so sorry. My dog is annoyed with the neighbors. I'm so sorry. Anyhow, so, but it's very important that we start the drying process, because if you just take it wet, just like this, and go straight to the dehydrator, it's going to pull the liquid off, the humidity from the outside, and leave it kind of like a encased. Leave it encased on the inside, and essentially you get case hardening, which is what you get when you're drying sausage or something like that. Meaning it gets really dry on the outside and that center stays moist. And it becomes much more difficult to get that moisture from the dead center out. So what we want to do is really let it dry evenly. Don't blow a fan on it. Don't do anything that's going to try to speed this up at this point. It has to very gently and on its own lose its moisture. When let me see if I can pick one up that's already showing. Okay, see? Now these have been, see that? This is from the first tray that I did. It's been a while. But even still, even though that's obviously very dry, I'm going to let this go at least another hour and move them to the dehydrator. And they're going to go, I mean, we're going to keep checking it, but I'd say at least a few hours in the dehydrator. We want to make sure there is no liquid left whatsoever. And because we need these to be brittle, we need these to be dry all the way through. And then we're just going to jar them up. And we have homemade dried pasta that has the most beautiful texture on it. It's the good stuff. It's the stuff that you pay $5, $6, $7 a bag for at the market, but you pay far less than that and get a lot more when you make it yourself. So I hope you try this. I hope you love it. When we are able to make our own spaghetti carbonara, because we have our own homemade spaghetti, we have our own homemade pancetta, we go outside and grab eggs from under some chicken's butt. It doesn't get better than this. It is the best feeling in the world when you can just create real high-end dishes with ingredients you made. And this is one of those projects. This is a little bit of a chore. I am not going to tell you it's not, but it's absolutely worth it. Everything you need is going to be in the instructions that are attached. I'm not going to make you sit around and wait to watch things dry, because it'll look exactly like this. You know, it literally will not change the way it looks for me to make you wait until after it's dehydrated, because it's going to come out looking just like that. What the difference is on the inside, which I can't show you no matter what I do. So this is such a good thing. And once you have the equipment, I'll link this. The place I'm linking it to is not the source where I got it from. The place where I got it from is out of stock. I checked. I did find it on Amazon, and I think they're importing it because there is a little bit of a delay in delivery. So I guess they are still importing it from Italy, but somehow they have some. It's the exact same one that I have. It's an arm workout, please know. And as I mentioned before, I am going to get the Phillips machine and the attachments that go with the bronze dies and see if that works, because if that works, I absolutely want to be able to suggest it, because it's, you know, this was an arm workout. I mean, I'm gonna have amazing pasta but really miserable arms. That's just the truth. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you love this, and when we are able to cook this up and make our own carbonara or whatever else with pantry pasta that we made, we're going to be delighted. I'll see you next time. Mwah! I love you.